5 years after our divorce, I ran into Sophia Miller at a luxury department store. The sales associate was carefully wrapping the silk scarf I'd picked out for my wife, and her voice grew noticeably warmer when she saw Sophia. "Ms. Miller, your husband's chosen gown is all ready for you." Sophia gave a slight nod, her eyes settling on the silk scarf I was holding. "Please add his to the bill as well." I politely refused, setting the cash I had on the counter. She let out what sounded like a sigh. "Daniel, after all this time, you still hold a grudge against me." I just offered a small smile and remained silent. I didn't have the luxury of spending so much time hating her. I had moved on a long time ago. I took the shopping bag, tossed it into my canvas tote filled with groceries, and turned to walk away. The early autumn wind howled, and by the time I followed my memories to the bus stop, it was so strong I could barely keep my eyes open. When I finally managed to look up again, I saw Sophia Miller's car stop right in front of me. Noticing my red eyes, her brow furrowed with concern. "Get in, I'll drive you." "No, thank you. I'll just take the bus." She scrutinized me from head to toe, and when her gaze landed on the canvas bag slung over my shoulder, she asked with a hesitant tone, "Have you been doing all right all these years?" "I'm doing pretty well." Sophia clearly didn't bite. "Just get in. Let me at least drop you off." The bus behind us kept honking, but she remained completely still. With everyone watching, I reluctantly got into the car. Peaceful Gardens Apartments. I rattled off the address without thinking. The air hung heavy for a moment. Then Sophia's voice came out strained. "Why are you living in a place like that? It's been run down for ages. Not to mention you." She trailed off, unable to finish her thought. But I knew exactly what she was trying to say. That was where my mother passed away. 10 years ago today, she refused to attend my wedding to Sophia. She jumped from the 10-story rooftop. The back seat was roomy, but the heat was blasting, so I cracked the window open a little. "You always cough when there's a draft, so let's keep it closed. If you're hot, I can just turn down the temperature." I shook my head, offering a small smile. "It's fine now. Just do whatever you're comfortable with." Sophia fell silent again, and a moment later, her phone rang. "Honey, did you get the dress? Where are you right now?" The voice coming from the car's speakers was familiar, yet it held a bright, enthusiastic tone that was completely new to me. "I got it. I just happened to run into Daniel, so I'm giving him a ride." There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. "Daniel's back? It's been ages. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Why didn't you invite me to hang out?" I'd known Ryan Johnson for over a decade, and I'd never once heard him speak in that tone. He used to be reserved and quiet, completely devoted to his art. If someone stole his spot in a competition, he'd just hide and cry. It was me who, baseball bat in hand, publicly destroyed that person's artwork, wrote a letter exposing the competition's corruption, and spent 3 days in juvenile detention, all just to get him justice. It just goes to show, absolute favoritism can truly transform a person. It was just a coincidence. He has plans, so I'll head back as soon as I drop him off. A chance encounter means it's fate. What's wrong with treating an old friend to dinner? "Ryan, stop it." Silence fell on the other end of the line. Sophia was always gentle when she was trying to persuade someone, but once she made up her mind, no one could stop her. Ryan Johnson should have known that better than anyone. The call was abruptly disconnected, just as the car pulled up in front of the apartment complex. "Thanks." After a polite thank you, I got out of the car and walked away. Sophia pulled her gaze away from her surroundings and called out to me. "Daniel, if you don't mind me asking, who is that silk scarf for?" "My wife." Sophia pressed a hand to her forehead and gave a wry smile, as if she thought I was still trying to spite her with that comment. "You used to buy me the same brand and style 5 years ago. And your point is?" I met her gaze, my expression completely unruffled. "Honestly, you don't have to put on a brave face for me. After all these years, I just want you to be doing well, not like this." What kind of way was that? The glass of the apartment complex's main gate reflected my image. A casual tracksuit, plain flat shoes, and a canvas bag overflowing with groceries. I looked like an average person, dressed for the daily grind. But for someone like me, accustomed to high-end custom wear, there was absolutely nothing wrong with this look. I just smiled, not feeling any anger. "I think it's perfectly fine." Sophia's expression faltered for a moment. "Daniel, you really do seem different from how you used to be." "Yeah, a lot of people have said that." With that, I turned and walked away, not once looking back. I climbed the 5 flights of stairs and unlocked the door. The interior of the apartment looked exactly the same as it had this time last year. Next to the old television set sat my mother's photograph, the candle in front of it long since extinguished. I expertly replaced the candles, tied on an apron, and headed into the kitchen. I quickly prepared 3 dishes and a soup. A bowl of rice sat untouched across the table, and I ate my own meal very slowly. Mom, I ran into Sophia Miller today. Don't get mad just yet. She can't push your son around, and besides, I'm not as naive as I once was. The only reply I received was an overwhelming silence. My appetite was gone, so I set down my chopsticks, walked into the bedroom, and pulled out an old photo album. Let's look at Mom's gorgeous face. Staring at those black and white photos all the time is just depressing. Before I even opened the album, a single photo slipped out and landed on the floor. As I bent to pick it up, I finally saw the faces in the picture. Sophia Miller, me, and Ryan Johnson. 3 faces, brimming with youth, were laughing freely for the camera. I stood in the middle, linking arms with both of them, laughing the loudest. The gap where my right canine tooth should have been made me look a little goofy. That was the peak of summer when I was 13. Debt collectors had found Sophia Miller's house, yelling threats and making a scene. None of the neighbors dared to help, not even my own parents. But I charged right in. The fist, intended for Sophia's face, unexpectedly struck mine instead. My tooth shattered instantly, and my face was swollen for more than half a month. My mother, heartbroken for me, told me to stay away from the Miller family. But to my surprise, Sophia's mother, dragging her disabled legs, knelt before my parents, repeatedly bowing her head in gratitude. And so, my mother's heart softened. For nearly 10 years, through every season, an extra place setting for Sophia Miller was always at our dinner table, and a new, girlish outfit was always included with our holiday clothes. When she wasn't busy, she'd help Sophia's mother run her stall, and if anyone dared to bully them, she'd unleash such a torrent of curses that they'd never show their face again. They called each other sisters, but no one could have predicted that the younger sister, always timid, insecure, and even stuttering when she spoke, would end up in her older sister's husband's bed. When I got home, everything had been smashed to pieces. My mother stood in the center of the room, sobbing hysterically, the 5-finger marks on her cheeks stark and horrifying, while my father held the woman in his arms protectively. Let's get a divorce. Everything goes to you. I only want Susan. Sophia Miller, standing next to me, looked panicked and tried to grab Susan Lynn's hand. Instead, my mother slapped her twice. I pushed my mother, watching her stumble and fall, her eyes wide with disbelief as she looked at me. I cried then too, but the words I spoke were cruel. Mom, how could you hit Sophia? Memories swirled chaotically, finally settling on the small photograph in my hand. After Sophia and I divorced, I burned everything that reminded me of her. I never thought one would slip through the cracks. Just as I was about to toss it into the trash, a knock suddenly echoed from the door. I assumed it was Mrs. Davis, who always visited around this time of year. So, I opened it without hesitation. To my surprise, it was Ryan Johnson, with his arm around Sophia Miller. He greeted me with a hearty smile. Daniel, long time no see. You haven't changed a bit after all these years. Sophia couldn't talk me out of it. Our unexpected visit isn't an inconvenience, is it? I calmly observed the two of them. I want to invite you in. Is there something I can help you with? Ryan Johnson hit a wall, neither soft nor hard, and looked somewhat dejectedly at Sophia beside him. Ryan just wanted to see you, and he brought you a gift. There's no other agenda. With that, Sophia placed the item she was holding directly on the entryway table. Ryan Johnson immediately began to enthusiastically explain. This men's skincare set is something I've really been enjoying lately. We happen to have an extra one at home, and since we used to share everything, I thought of bringing it for you. I glanced down at it. It looked exactly like the one our butler, Mr. Davis, used. That picture. Ryan Johnson looked at my hand, and his eyes suddenly became moist. Daniel, after all these years, you still haven't moved on, have you? I crumpled the photo into a ball and casually tossed it into the trash. Not at all. He seemed to reach for my hand, but then stopped, his hand hovering in mid-air. I know you're still holding on to some resentment. If you and Sophia were still together, today would actually be your wedding anniversary. I was caught in a difficult situation back then, too. If you truly don't care anymore, let us treat you to dinner. And if there's anything we can help you with in your life, just let us know. We're old friends, after all. I was about to refuse without a second thought. The candle in front of the shrine suddenly crackled. I offered a faint smile, and then, unexpectedly, changed my mind. All right. Ryan Johnson was far more talkative than he used to be. He also made frequent small gestures. He talked about his romantic trip to Turkey with Sophia last month, all while using his finger to apply his lip balm to her lips as they waited at a traffic light. Every year, when fall and winter roll around, I have to remind you. Last time I kissed you a little too hard and you bled. Don't you ever learn? Sophia pushed his wandering hand away, sounding slightly annoyed. Stop it. Oh, I completely forgot Daniel was here. Daniel, you don't mind, do you? Sophia and I are just used to being like this. I interrupted him with an almost excessive tolerance. Of course not. I've seen you two rolling around in bed back in the day. Why would I care about this little display now? A heavy silence fell over the car. It finally settled into quiet. I watched the scenery pass by, thinking that if my mother were still alive, she'd probably be astonished by how much things had changed. Back then, my father's stubborn decision to divorce for Susan Lynn had nearly driven her insane. And the secret of Sophia Miller and I becoming a couple was what ultimately killed her. Initially, I only hated my father and Susan Lynn. They betrayed Mom, forcing her to transform from an unbreakable woman into a complaining, overreacting wife in a short amount of time. Time seemed to have taken an especially heavy toll on her, slowly draining her vitality. Later, I hated myself. After sorrowfully arranging my mother's funeral, I traveled south alone for a month during what should have been my honeymoon. During that entire period, the one person I never hated was Sophia Miller. She was a pearl covered in dust, a child with a harsh fate, yet utterly powerless. Before I left, I asked Ryan Johnson to look after her for me. He took excellent care of her. In our new home, after we were married, he cooked with swift, practiced movements, and his 5 dishes and 1 soup always looked perfectly presented. I was genuinely grateful to him. That year, the bond between the 3 of us grew even stronger. Sophia Miller treated me even better. The company's first big profit, she spent entirely on buying the gem cufflinks I admired. For my birthday, she arranged a citywide fireworks display to celebrate. Every month, she would take a few days, cancel all her in-person meetings, and work from home alongside me. I never once doubted. She loved me deeply. Until one day, by chance, I went to her office by myself. From behind a slightly ajar secret door in the office, I heard faint, ragged breathing. I pushed the door open. The sight before me pierced my eyes like a knife. I let out an uncontrollable scream. Her move to shield the man was swift and decisive. "We'll let you in here. Get out." I went wild, grabbing everything I could reach and throwing it at them. Blood trickled down Sophia Miller's temple, but she still remembered to fiercely protect the man in her arms. I smashed everything in the room, yet I couldn't bring myself to get closer to them. Those were the 2 people I had loved most of my life. Fear had seeped into my bones, and I tried to calm myself, my teeth chattering. "Ryan, look at me." The man's face was red and tear-streaked, and he knelt before me, still tangled in the sheets. "Daniel, I'm so sorry. Sophia, and I know it was wrong, but we've fallen uncontrollably in love. Please, can you just let us be together?" His groveling demeanor was exactly how he looked that first year we met, when he was cornered by a few thugs at the alley entrance. That same year, to protect him, I, straight A student, completely alienated that group of people, and for a long time, I was afraid to take any shortcuts. I once had Sophia Miller personally hand him the wedding bouquet, wishing him to find his own happiness. And now he was lying in my wife's arms, begging me to give them my blessing. Tears streamed down my face, and my voice was barely a whisper. When did this begin? His lips trembled, unable to form words. But someone else answered for him. "Does that even matter? Have you made enough of a scene? This is the office, not your house. This doesn't matter. Sophia Miller, this doesn't matter." I demanded hysterically. She was naked, yet her gaze was completely unashamed. "Fine, I'll tell you. Last March, when you left me alone and went south, that's when we got together. I wasn't intentionally hiding it from you. It's just that you had just lost your mother, and I didn't want to hurt you even more. So I went along with your wishes and kept this marriage going. Ryan has already suffered so much, and I don't want to see him constantly worried and scared because of me. I had originally planned to ask for a divorce after your mother's Memorial Day. Since you've already found out, we might as well lay all our cards on the table. Let's get a divorce. You can have anything you want. I only want Ryan." Only at that moment did I truly understand how devastating that push I gave my mother had been all those years ago when I stood by Sophia Miller's side. Before my divorce from Sophia Miller, I still caused a huge scene. I used my phone to take pictures of them looking disheveled in bed, then printed countless flyers with text and distributed them to every single employee at her company. More and more banners exposing their sordid affair were hung beneath the office building. I went to the school to report Ryan Johnson's inappropriate behavior. The Art Academy forum he attended was flooded with scandalous comments. At his graduation ceremony, I hired people to continuously loop videos of the three of us laughing and having fun on the big screen. Memories I once treasured became weapons I used to attack them. But Sophia Miller still managed to protect him. He successfully graduated from the nation's premier art academy and was even about to open his own art exhibition. To safeguard Ryan Johnson, Sophia Miller finally deigned to look me in the eye. Ryan's dream is about to come true. It has nothing to do with our past issues, so don't go and cause trouble for him. I was already seeing red. How was that causing trouble? I'm all set. Everyone at the exhibition will be thrilled to see those masterpieces. A document was suddenly slammed down in front of me. If you want to preserve your mother's final resting place, then be cooperative. Sign the divorce agreement and stay far away from Ryan and me from now on. When my mother was buried, I was too overwhelmed with grief, so Sophia, as my wife, handled everything, including choosing and purchasing the burial plot. Perhaps because land was scarce, even plots in the afterlife were being resold. If Sophia Miller signed that document, my mother wouldn't even find peace in death. I splashed a cup of coffee all over Sophia Miller's face. That night, I cried myself to sleep on my mother's tombstone. The next day, I still went to the courthouse. The situation, however, was a bit different for what I'd expected. Sophia Miller only gave me an old house from her family. You reported the company's financial and tax irregularities, and now a large portion of the funds are frozen. This is all I can give you. If Ryan hadn't pleaded for you, you wouldn't have gotten a single cent. I could never outsmart Sophia Miller, not even as a child. She was calm and serious, never impulsive, and adept at using strategy and power to achieve her goals. I, on the other hand, was the type who always rushed into things without thinking, often causing more harm to myself and to my opponents. I became quiet, just as she wanted. After selling the house, and before heading south, I still went to Ryan Johnson's art exhibition. The decision was made on a whim. A massive projection in the city center displayed the man's handsome face. The exhibition was titled Key to the Soul. That was a phrase we often used during our youthful years. It was the pure, unadulterated hope of youth. It was the most genuine beauty share between friends, with a final, almost masochistic sense of nostalgia. I fully braced myself, and the moment I stepped into the venue, I felt like a mouse peeking in on someone else's happiness, until I saw the painting titled Key to the Soul. It depicted two bodies. The mole on the woman's shoulder blade, I had caressed it countless times. The man's grip had crumpled the soft pillow. The background was a bed with pale purple sheets, and outside the window, magnolia blossoms were in full bloom. That was the specific variety I had personally chosen at the flower market. The pink blossoms were as large as teacups, beautiful and silently captivating. That was my home. It turned out it was also the place where he and Sophia Miller first became intimate. So, the soul belonged to Sophia Miller, and the key belonged to Ryan Johnson. An uncontrollable wave of nausea surged through me. I threw up all over the floor. This startled the two of them, who were entertaining guests nearby. A bright, worried voice reached my ears. "Sir, are you all right?" The key-shaped design of his cufflinks flashed, blinding me. They were a perfect match for the heart-shaped brooch on Sophia's chest. I frantically grabbed one of the cufflinks and slashed it across the painting on the wall. Ryup, the sound of the canvas tearing echoed through the entire hall, and everyone around gasped sharply. The scene was utter chaos. I was pinned to the ground by security guards. My face pressed against the cold floor. Sophia, holding the crying man, met my gaze. She looked at me as if I were a rat in a gutter. "Call the police," she said. I laughed, louder and louder. It startled everyone, making them take a step back. Because the amount involved exceeded $10,000, I was sentenced to 3 years in prison, along with compensation for material and emotional damages. In prison, I attempted to end my life several times, but each time I was miraculously saved. A year later, when I was released early for good behavior, I had nothing to my name. But I had gained a lot of perspective. The car arrived at our destination, and Ryan Johnson went to the restroom to touch up his makeup. Sophia Miller stood beside me and apologized in a low voice. "I'm sorry. What happened back then, we were definitely in the wrong. Next time, I'll tell Ryan to be more discreet." I raised an eyebrow. The Sophia Miller I knew back then would never have humbled herself to me. Yet now she was willing to apologize to me right away. I looked at her, a little puzzled. No need. You two are married. I just saw you, and it brought back old memories, that's all. A fleeting sadness flickered in Sophia's eyes. I couldn't quite make sense of it, and I wasn't in the mood to dig deeper. Luckily, Ryan Johnson returned, acting as if he'd completely forgotten everything that happened in the car. Back in the day, the three of us loved to chip in for hot pot. Let's really go all out today. Sophia, however, didn't seem to approve. Daniel used to eat hot pot for our sake. His stomach was sensitive and couldn't handle too much spice. How could you forget that? It's fine. My stomach is perfectly fine now. Years of consistent care had long since restored my mind and body to their optimal state. My phone suddenly rang. The large word wife on the screen immediately caught my eye. I answered it. My wife's clear, pleasant voice held a hint of playful complaint. Honey, taking our little one to be on TV is more exhausting than 10 days of work. When you get back and see me, you're definitely going to say I've lost weight. In the background, our little boy's childish voice piped up with a complaint. No way. Dad, Mom was chatting happily with some man today. You little rascal, you're trying to get your mom in trouble, aren't you? That was the host. Listening to the boisterous voices on the other end of the line, the corners of my mouth couldn't help but turn up in a smile. I looked up and saw my wife's charming face on the mall's large screen, meticulously giving an interview. Beside her, a cute little boy, like a pink dumpling, had his eyes darting between the two adults, looking utterly adorable. After a couple more sentences, I hung up the phone and snapped a picture of the screen. As I sent it, I realized that both Sophia and Ryan beside me had frozen in place. Daniel, you're married? Ryan Johnson spoke first, sounding utterly incredulous. I put my phone away and nodded. Who is she? Is she from around here? If you're having a tough time financially, Sophia and I can both help out. Before I could even refuse, Sophia's low, chiding voice cut him off. That's enough, Ryan. You're really overstepping today. Daniel, if you're married, why would you be living alone in such a rundown apartment complex? I just looked, and there isn't even a single pair of women's slippers by the shoe rack. I don't know who she is, but if she truly is your wife, I don't think she's up to par. I was somewhat baffled. That house was specifically for me to honor my mother's memory. Every year around this time, I make sure to come to the old house and cook a meal. A few years ago, it was scheduled for demolition, but my wife traded it for another piece of land of inestimable value. There weren't any of her shoes in the shoe cabinet, but she bought the entire property as a gift for me. Whether she was up to par or not, Sophia Miller's opinion didn't matter. Why are you so agitated? Aren't you happy to see Daniel married? Maybe even as kids? Ryan Johnson forced a smile. Sophia's face, however, remained calm, but her words offered him no quarter. Ryan Johnson, if you don't want to eat this meal, you're free to leave. Ryan Johnson's face darkened, but he didn't say another word. They probably didn't enjoy that meal very much. I, however, had a good appetite. At the end of the meal, Sophia Miller pulled out a card and placed it in front of me. There's some money on this card. You can use it. No need to pay it back. If you run low, I'll deposit more regularly. I stared at the gold card, feeling confused. Why are you suddenly giving me money? I should have made things right with you for what happened back then. I paused, surprised by her conscience, which had apparently taken years to awaken. It was actually pretty amusing. When we divorced, she dismissed me like a beggar, completely sure I couldn't do anything to her. Now that we both had our own families, she was suddenly offering me money. Was she so certain I wouldn't be able to refuse? I calmly toyed with the thin card, then abruptly changed the subject. If you're truly sorry, then have you and your mother go kowtow 100 times in front of my mother's grave. Perhaps then I might believe you have a shred of sincerity. Sophia's brows furrowed, and she remained silent. I didn't actually expect her to agree. I casually tossed the card onto the table, preparing to stand. But my wrist was suddenly grabbed by Sophia. Just take the money. Consider it for your own good. I slowly but firmly pulled my hand away. Sophia Miller, you're overstepping your bounds. Sophia's eyes were red. Then let me drive you home. I shook my head. My wife is coming to pick me up. No need to bother. Remembering something, I politely added, thank you for the meal. I enjoyed it very much, and I was quite satisfied with the show I'd witnessed. Sophia Miller was never an impulsive person, nor would she ever be blinded by love. I didn't believe her concern for me, today, stemmed from any lingering feelings. It was simply her inherent flaw. Ryan Johnson, as I suspected, wasn't as happy as he seemed. Whether he married a human or a monster, I knew better than anyone. I went to the restroom first, and when I stood by the roadside waiting again, I suddenly heard two people arguing in an alley not far behind me. Why do you want me to shut up? Do you expect me to just stand by and watch my wife care about another man? Do you even have a heart? The man's tearful voice was incredibly piercing. Ever since you saw him, you've been completely out of it. When you heard he had a wife, you were practically digging your nails into your palm. Do you think I'm blind? That card is your secondary card. Last time your mom asked for it, you wouldn't even give it to her, but today you handed it to him right in front of me. Sophia Miller, what exactly am I to you? A sharp slap echoed, and the man's tearful complaints instantly ceased. Sophia's voice was sharp and harsh. You two were like brothers. You took his place as the Miller family's son-in-law, enjoying all the wealth and prestige. Seeing him like this now, do you feel even a shred of pity for him? You can't stand giving him just a little money. So imagine how much pain he must have felt when he learned the whole truth back then. There's no future for him and me anymore. Can't you just leave him alone? The man's muffled sobs came in broken bursts. I found it all rather uninteresting, until a familiar black stretch limousine pulled up in front of me. Before the driver could even open the door, a cute little boy scrambled out of the back seat, happily rushing into my arms and shouting, "Daddy, Daddy, did you see Bobby on TV? Wasn't Bobby such a good boy and so great?" I gently tapped his little nose, smiling indulgently. That's right, Bobby is the best. A pair of hands scooped the child from my arms, and the beautiful face I'd just seen on TV appeared before me, though with a slightly disapproving expression. You're such a big boy, always wanting to be carried. Do you know how heavy you are? If you wear out my husband, I'm coming for you. Mommy's talking nonsense. You always want Daddy to hug you too. Shame on you. I smiled, watching them bicker, and was about to get into the car. From behind me, Sophia Miller's incredulous voice suddenly broke through. Daniel, who is this? I turned around and politely introduced them. This is my wife, Sarah Jones. Sophia Miller didn't snap out of it for a long moment, still unable to believe it. Who doesn't know Ms. Jones? She only just returned to the country this year. How could she possibly be married? Daniel, there's a limit to how much you can lie. True, the Jones family, being one of the wealthiest, had always been low-key. Our quiet and beautiful wedding abroad back then was known to very few people. It was perfectly normal for Sophia Miller not to know. Sarah Jones freed one hand and took mine. These two must be Ms. Miller and Mr. Johnson, correct? My husband often speaks of you both. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. The remark was laced with sarcasm, and Sophia Miller's face went pale. She didn't react for a long time, her eyes fixed intently on our intertwined hands. Ryan Johnson, standing beside her, didn't even remember to wipe the tears from his face. They watched us get into the car and drive away, completely stunned. The Jones estate. After putting our son to sleep, Sarah followed closely behind me, like a small dog with slightly drooping ears. I found it amusing, so I turned, cupped her face, and asked, "What's the matter?" I just had dinner with them. It was the three of us the entire time. I know. The cleaning lady found this. She was holding the skincare, set in her hand. It was then I realized I had forgotten about it. Oh, since they gave it to me, why shouldn't I take it? It's perfect to give to Mr. Davis. Besides, I brought you a gift too. I took out the silk scarf I'd set aside and held it up against her. It's a perfect fit. Sarah's eyes regained their sparkle. Yet she was unwilling to admit that she had been agonizing over this small matter for a long time. She rested her head against the back of my neck, taking a deep breath. Honey, let me help you shower tonight. I'll make sure you're extra clean. You almost picked up some dirt. I thought that after that day, Sophia Miller and I would have no further connection. But a week later, the cleaning lady who took care of Peaceful Gardens Apartments suddenly called. Her voice on the phone sounded a bit panicked. Ma'am, I came to clean today and saw a huge pile of cigarette butts outside the house. The hallway reeked of smoke and alcohol. It almost knocked me out. There were no signs that anyone had actually been inside the house. But old Mr. Davis downstairs said he's been hearing strange noises in the hallway these past few days. Could it be a thief staking out the place? I frowned. Although Peaceful Gardens Apartments was old, ever since Sarah Jones bought it a few years ago, she had diligently hired people to maintain it, which meant fewer strange people were around. And why would someone trying to steal something foolishly stand at the door, doing nothing? I had someone send over a peephole camera. The next day, I saw a completely dejected Sophia Miller on the camera. She had clearly been drinking, swaying as she sat down against the wall. She was chain-smoking one cigarette after another. Just as I was about to call the cleaning lady to tell her to call the police, an unexpected person appeared on the screen. Ryan Johnson had actually shown up too. He had been crying for who knows how long. His eyes were red and swollen. When are you finally going home? He's a Jones now. He doesn't need your concern. Do you really need to come here and make a fool of yourself? I'm your husband. Have you even looked at me once these past few days? Sophia Miller. Do you remember the vows you made me back then? Were all those just lies? Sophia, who had been silent all this time, suddenly erupted upon hearing that. Her hands gripped his neck, her eyes bloodshot. You dare to bring up the past in front of me. If it weren't for you, how else would I have betrayed Daniel? And how else would I have hurt him repeatedly? That night, you deliberately wore his pajamas to seduce me. Did you think I didn't know that? Ryan Johnson's face turned a deep purple, and he weakly retorted, his voice barely a whisper. But you told me to wear it. Sophia's grip visibly tightened, her eyes wild with fury. Fearing someone might get seriously hurt, I called the apartment complex security. At the same time, I instructed the property management to add Sophia Miller to the complex's blacklist. I thought that would be the end of it. But to my surprise, a few days later, on the way to drop Bobby off at school, I ran into Susan Lynn. She was a completely different person from the timid, frail woman she used to be. Dressed in luxurious clothes, she sat in a state-of-the-art wheelchair. Her face had few wrinkles, but it looked somewhat stiff. It was the telltale sign of too many cosmetic fillers. She scrutinized me from head to toe, and a calculating glint appeared in her eyes. Little Daniel, I'm Aunt Lynn. You still remember me, don't you? Lately, I've really been running into a lot of familiar faces. But this time, I had no patience and was ready to have the driver just pull away. To my surprise, no sooner had I spoken than Susan's voice suddenly turned shrill. It was you, wasn't it, who told Sophia to make me kowtow in front of your mother's tombstone? I was taken aback. I hadn't expected Sophia Miller to actually mention that. Seeing my expression, as if I'd been caught, she became even more enraged. Do you think I don't know what you're up to? Seeing us prosper, you thought about getting a share from the Miller family, and then you even instigated her to make me kowtow to your mother. It was your father who insisted on being with me back then. What else could a weak woman like me do but grasp at the only straw available? Don't I have my own struggles? When you and Sophia got married, I agreed immediately out of respect for your mother, but you stubbornly refused to serve me tea and acknowledge me. That's when I knew you were trouble. You and your mother are both hypocrites. She kept saying she felt sorry for me, but on the day it happened, she didn't hesitate to throw things at my head. It was all her own fault. After so many years, I thought my heart had long since found peace. Yet, I was still enraged by the distorted face of the woman before me. I gave a subtle signal to the driver in the car. The strong, muscular man instantly got out of the car and stood in front of her, poised and well-trained. What do you think you're doing? I smiled calmly. Susan Lynn, you were much more likable when you didn't talk so much. If my dad hadn't died so early, if he saw you like this, he might have found someone else. She was about to say more, but I quietly gave an order. Hit her. The driver's strong arm instantly swung. Susan Lynn was stunned by the blow, her face gradually turning red and swollen. By the time she reacted, the driver had already politely pulled a business card from his pocket. Ma'am, if you wish to press charges against us, you can contact the number above directly. Our lawyer will be in touch to discuss the matter. Susan Lynn's face was contorted with rage. Daddy, who is that strange grandma? Bobby's childish voice suddenly piped up. Susan Lynn instinctively looked at him. Her gaze shifted from surprise to pure malice, like a venomous snake waiting to strike. No father could tolerate such a look. I told the driver to drive away. To my surprise, that very afternoon, I received a call from the police station. I was rarely flustered, but this time I was. With Sarah Jones's comforting words, I sped to the destination. When I saw Bobby standing perfectly fine in front of me, I almost burst into tears. Daddy, don't cry. Bobby isn't hurt. The police officer even said Bobby was brave and smart. I looked at Susan Lynn, who was handcuffed to a chair by the police, still yelling and shouting. I'm not a kidnapper. I just wanted to take the child to kowtow to his grandmother. Is that wrong? Do you even know who my daughter is? Let me go right now, or you'll all regret it. Sarah Jones, having quickly grasped the situation, her face darkened. I knew then that this wouldn't be easily resolved. By the time Sophia Miller arrived, the Jones family's lawyer was already there. Sophia, quickly make them help me unlock this. You saw it, didn't you? These public servants are just bullying me like this. Slap. Susan Lin clearly hadn't expected to be hit twice in one day. The woman, nearly 60 years old, suddenly seemed to shrivel, tears welling in her eyes. Mom, regarding you and Daniel's father back then, I turned a blind eye. Daniel's mother was driven to her death, and you secretly instigated me. I tolerated that too. Now you even dare to touch Daniel's child. Are you only going to be satisfied if you kill me next? Susan Lin sobbed, tears streaming down her face. Mommy just wanted to teach him a lesson. Do you know he had someone today? Sarah Jones's voice beside me was sharp and cold. Mr. Miller, we will not take this matter lightly. I will not allow someone who constantly threatens my husband and child to roam freely in this country. Sophia Miller's face was grim. Susan Lin was still yelling. Who are you? Is it no law anymore? Are you going to kill me? If murder wasn't illegal, you wouldn't be sitting here unharmed. Susan Lin wanted to argue further, but Sophia Miller's single sentence left her utterly disheartened. I stepped away, handing our son over to the bodyguard and assistant. When I returned, I saw Ryan Johnson, who had just arrived. He was trying hard to comfort Susan Lin. Mom, how could Sophia not care about you? You're her only mother, and besides, you're the child's only grandmother. A child. Susan Lin's eyes lit up. Sophia is pregnant? Yes, I just received Sophia's last medical report this morning. I haven't had a chance to tell you yet. Ryan smiled, but there was a hint of sadness in his gaze as he looked at Sophia Miller's back. The old woman, who had just been full of dejection, suddenly seemed energized. Sophia, did you hear that? You're having a baby. Sophia's back stiffened for a moment, but she maintained her posture of communicating with the police, completely unmoved. Susan Lin was getting anxious. Sophia, did you hear me? You're having a baby. Ma'am, this is a police station. Please keep your voice down, someone reminded her. Ryan Johnson's eyes were red, but he feigned indifference. Mom, let's talk about it later. Let Sophia finish handling things here first. There's nothing left to handle. Sophia Miller suddenly stood up and looked at them. Daniel spent a year and a half in prison back then, and you two were behind it. Everything has a cause and effect. I won't gamble with the future of Miller Corporation anymore. Mom, you're on your own. Susan Lin felt like her world had just collapsed. Amidst the woman's mournful wails, Sarah Jones took my hand and got into the car. Before the car started, Sophia Miller suddenly stood by the car window. Sarah beside me instantly became alert, shielding me behind her. It's nothing, I reassured her with my eyes. Sophia Miller's eyes were bloodshot. Daniel, my mother, she's an uneducated countrywoman. I apologize to you for what she did. You can pursue legal action and punish her however you see fit. I won't stand in your way. I've thought it through these past few days. I won't let go of anyone who has ever hurt you. Tomorrow I will divorce Ryan Johnson, and we will never see each other again. I frowned. You don't need to tell me about your family matters. Besides, the people who hurt me also include you. Sophia shed 2 lines of tears, a bitter smile twisting her lips. I know. That's why the child in my body won't be born. I just want to punish myself this way. Seeing you doing well, I'm happy for you. Sarah Jones scoffed. So, Ms. Miller's persona has changed? From a heartless villain to a deeply emotional, suffering, reformed green tea, who's worth more than gold. Please, nobody cares if you're happy or not. And don't even think about the future. As long as I'm around, my husband won't even glance at another woman. I offered a faint smile, bringing the conversation to an end. Sophia Miller, we've been strangers for a long time now. I rolled up the window, and the car slowly pulled onto the main road. The woman in the rearview mirror stood dejectedly in place, gradually fading into the distance. Bobby, leaning in his mom's arms and eating candy, suddenly asked in a childish voice, Daddy, why is that lady crying? I gently squeezed his little hand and smiled, because she had too much water in her brain, and it just flowed out. Bobby tilted his head, trying hard to figure out if his dad's words were true. Sarah's amused laughter rang in my ears. Her delicate, gentle hand quietly took mine. It was a stable and beautiful happiness.